So for the participants who are joining, please, you can scan the QR code and fill in the survey. You can see it on your screens. And if you're just joining us, please introduce yourself in the chat so that we can know where you're joining us from and what your name is and probably what you do. I think we have participants from Brazil, we have from Kenya, we have from South Africa. Well, we're scattered around the globe.
Nice.
Very nice.
Very international. Nice.
Yeah, we have people from Kenya, Spain, Ecuador. Yeah, all welcome.
Wow.
Yeah, we have Israel in the house. We have Uganda.
Nice.
We have Washington, D.C. in the house. Welcome.
From Tel Aviv, yeah. Boker Tov.
We have quite a good number from Israel. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Matsuyan. Very good.
Asma, thank you for joining. I'm glad that you're able to connect now. We had issues before. She wasn't able to hear us. So Dr. David, someone has called you from India.
Very nice. Great. I like it. Very nice. Very international.
Very. It's interesting that people are actually wanting to hear about AI in impacted measurement. Very interesting. Wonderful.
Oh, this is great. Yeah. Oh, I like some very useful tools. Very nice. Yeah, USAID. Yep, I had a project there for India. USAID has, of course, been cut. Taxes also.
If you're just joining, please scan the QR code and answer the survey for us. Thank you. Annabelle, can you please help us put the link to the survey in the chat? Somebody's asking. Thank you. I think we have quite a good number. We can start so we can make good use of our time. The rest will be joining us as we go on. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. And welcome to our exciting 4-week series on AI in impact measurement. I was just, a few weeks ago, I would say last week, at a round table, and I said that, you know, a few years back, none of us would have expected that we'll be talking about AI in impact evaluation. We'll be talking about algorithm machine learning in the same breath with impact measurement. So it's very exciting times, and I'm glad that we're all here so we can also hear from the industry experts and also from all of us in the industry on how we can leverage AI in impact measurement. So we are very excited to have you all here so we can explore how we are transforming impact measurement using AI. So this series is designed to be very practical, very insightful, and very engaging, bringing together experts, practitioners like you and me, and also thought leaders to share the real-world application and opportunities and challenges of AI in monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to have a new series on each Thursday. So I'd encourage you to participate in those series as well. I'm sure it's going to be very insightful for all of us. So before we go on, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Noemia Piri, and I'm a project manager at Truro Sensors. I am based in Luanda, Angola, but today I am joining in from Nairobi, Kenya. Very beautiful place, very good weather, and I would like to welcome you once again to this session. So in this session, we have different things that we're going to talk about in the fall series. We are talking about the role of AI in impact measurement, and we're doing an introduction today. In the next series, we're going to talk about the practical applications of AI in impact measurement. We are also going to talk about the ethical and inclusive AI and also the future of AI in monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So I won't take much of our time. I'm going to introduce right now our speakers for today. We have Dr. David joining us from the USA, and we also have Silva, who is joining us from Rome, Italy today. We are so honored to have you. Thank you so much for joining and also for honoring our invitation to come and speak at this webinar series. So we are going to dive into the presentation, and I'm going to invite Dr. David to start with an introduction to AI in impact measurement. The floor is yours, Dr. David.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm going to do a share of slides. I think I'm going to cover a variety of very useful tools for all of us, and I try to focus on free or inexpensive software when I look at different things available. Let me just over here for 1 second. And then so, and can you see at this time a lady with the pen in her hand? Okay, just making sure. Basically, I want to highlight is a few tools that, once again, all of us can use. I've been using a number of them and trying to just highlight the ones I think are the most useful at the moment. So what AI is in impact measurement? Well, we're talking about using AI to facilitate the process of assessing the positive and negative effects of organizations' actions. So I've been using AI to help with data collection, data analysis, actual assessment, definitely reporting, and actually influencing populations in terms of what the findings are in a more dynamic, more engaging way, the same way we made data viz useful to help highlight some of our findings. Well, why does it matter? Well, one of the most prominent proponents in AI says, oh, I'm sorry, say again? Oh, I think someone just had their mic on, I guess. She says that AI won't replace humans, but humans who use AI will replace humans who don't. Faye is a leading computer scientist in AI, and I think she has a good point. It's not AI that's going to replace us. It's whether we decide to use them in an ethical and efficient manner or we don't, and that will be the division. The next question that came up that we talked about earlier is how AI is transforming MEL. Well, just recently, I used my phone, as you can see, with ChatGPT to do voice translations. I was working over in the Ivory Coast area in West Africa and the Francophones. And I can say, Je m'appelle David. I can do some basic conversation in French, but it would take me a long time to do a whole presentation, a lot of preparation. I simply spoke into my phone and asked it to translate from English to French my presentation, and I did the entire presentation that way less than a month ago. Let me just give you a feel for what that sounds like. Hi, this is David Fetterman, and I will be speaking about artificial intelligence and evaluation today.
Bonjour, je suis David Fetterman et aujourd'hui, je vais parler de l'intelligence artificielle et de l'évaluation.
When I first started speaking about artificial intelligence and evaluation at the American Evaluation Association, we didn't think many people would come. It was packed, as you can see from this picture.
La première fois que j'ai commencé à parler de l'intelligence artificielle et de l'évaluation, American Evaluation Association, nous ne pensions pas que beaucoup de gens viendraient. C'était plein, comme vous pouvez le voir sur cette photo.
I'll give a brief history about artificial intelligence, focusing on the 50s, the 50s to the 90s, and then the present. A very brief presentation about that, so you have some history.
Je vais donner un bref historique de l'intelligence artificielle sur les années 50, les années 50 à 90, et
You can see, very simple, and it bridges the communication barriers that we have. This presentation about technology, AI in particular, would not be possible if it wasn't for this simple free software that I literally was on my phone. The question again, how AI is transforming MEL. I think this one you'll find very powerful as well. I use Google Notebook LM. I can take 20, 30 different documents, and it will summarize and highlight the key points about them. You should play with it, see what you think. Let me show you what else it can do. I put in a memorial piece. A friend of mine, a colleague, Michael Scriven, passed away, and we used to argue about different things in evaluation for many, many years. I simply took the PDF, the actual memorial piece I wrote for him. I uploaded it to this software, Notebook LM over here, and it created a podcast. Watch what happens. This is from uploading a few pieces of paper, of which I wrote a memorial about him. This is what happened from that.
Welcome to a deep dive into the life and work of Michael Scriven.
A giant in the field of evaluation.
Absolutely.
Known for his intellect.
Sharp as a tack.
And as one source puts it, his love of a good debate.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't afraid to voice his opinions.
Not at all.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
And what makes this deep dive particularly interesting is we're exploring Scriven's work through his relationship with another big name in evaluation, David Fetterman.
Right.
You see, they disagreed a lot.
They did.
Like really a lot.
A lot.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
Those clashes actually helped push the field of evaluation forward.
It's true.
So before we get to the fireworks,
Yeah.
let's quickly touch on some of Scriven's major.
Now you can see, I did not put the voices in there. They created the voices. This is a very powerful way of sharing evaluation knowledge with folks that you work with. I do a lot of empowerment evaluation where I'm helping people learn how to evaluate their own programs, and I serve as a coach and facilitator. I can often have very dense documents about evaluation and then submit them here, and it becomes very conversational, very understandable, helping to build capacity in the field. Obviously, it's also used for educational purposes to make a lot of our work more interesting to folks, to students.
Contribution.
Right, yeah.
Just so we're all on the same
Let me just go like this.
page.
Sounds good.
Eh.
There we go. Over here.
Scriven really did the groundwork for.
There we go. It has a whole series of which you can put the pictures in if you want as well, or you can just have the podcast for people to listen to.
Open.
Here.
Welcome to a deep dive into the life and work
Just if I get to keep on.
of Michael Scriven.
One second. There we go.
Welcome to it.
And then there's another tool I want to highlight. in the short period of time that we want to highlight a few of our tools that have been useful in evaluation. I use something called e-analyze. It's AI for sheets. It's basically a Google extension. What you do, if you can see over here, I'm working on tobacco prevention, keeping minority kids away from tobacco in Arkansas. And we have a lot of data. So what we went to is to Google Sheets. We go to the word extensions on the top, and you simply go add in the AI for Sheets, for Gemini in this case. Once you've done that, you can then take your spreadsheet and just drag it from A1 all the way down to the end, and you click on e-analyze. Once you do that, I'll show you how it looks like. It starts giving you a description. Let me just show you what that looks like for 1 second. This is
Hi, I'm David Fetterman, and I want to just highlight very briefly how to use AI in your Google Sheets. We've been working on tobacco prevention and cessation empowerment evaluations for about 20 years now. This is with Linda Delaney and Marion Evans Lee, and grantees throughout the state of Arkansas. You can see some of the names over here. You can see Brandon House, Family and Youth, Future Builders, etc. And basically, we have a situation where we say, here's what our goals are by the end of the year. And here are our quarterly milestones. Where do we want to get by the end of the year, each quarter? Maybe smoke-free parks. You want 20 of them? Well, you want 5 in the first quarter, 5 more, etc. Anyway, so we have all this data over here. And as we're looking through the data, it's very nice, but how to make sense of it? So what we're doing is we're using the extensions over here called AI for Sheets, and it uses GPT and Gemini in particular. And what it does is just you click on Analyze, if that's what you're interested in, equal Analyze, and then you put in the range. In this case, A1 could be through K49. And it'll give you a nice summary of all of the information. Let me show you a little bit more what that looks like. Give me 1 second here. And as we go into the sheet, and over here in the corner, you can see I did equal analyze, and then A1 to K49, the entire spreadsheet. And in about 3 seconds, you have a summary. Here are 6 insights from the provided data, and has significant variation in performance across intervention areas. It specifically says preventing initiation. It's a mixed bag, it says. Other areas underperformed, and it mentions by site and by quarter what the status is. If you look to the right, you can also you can see that you can also do things like translate, you can summarize, you can analyze PDFs. There are a variety of other things you can do as well. I tend to focus on analyze. I hope you find this helpful as we go through this in more detail. You can feel free to email us for questions. Take care. Bye-bye.
You can see how powerful that is. It's a very simple tool, and it captures.
I'm David Fetterman, and I want to just highlight.
There you go. And what it does is it pulls together very nicely the key points. And I had to go and analyze them myself to make sure that they were correct. You can't just assume you have it correct all the way through.
Briefly,
let me just bring this
how to use AI.
Second. And I use Loom to make the recording, which is another AI tool, basically. So you get over here. 1 second. Seems to be slow.
Hi.
Bandwidth. Let's give it a second.
I'm David Fetterman.
And we'll go over to the next one right up here. There we go. And I'll end very shortly, but I want to also highlight how we use this for reporting. I use Canva. Canva software looks like this, where you can, for free, by the way, or you can pay $100 if you want the fancier version. You can change the text over here. You can add different pictures. You can highlight all sorts of things. Let me show you why this is powerful. It's just a simple report, but watch what happens. This is what it looks like. You can make a music video of your own report. Make it more engaging. but if it's this sort of thing, the more people are likely to read it. And I'll stop shortly. But you get the idea. You can make your simple report into a PDF for free, much more engaging and much more professional looking, as you can see from the formatting. I'll end here. We're highlighting the benefits of AI. It can be much more efficient. I work in medical area as well as in education. And a lot of the work here in AI even is more precise than seasoned ophthalmologists doing retinal scans and gastroenterologists finding polyps in colonoscopies. Let's go back this. And let me get ready to conclude. I also wanted to mention I use it for data analysis. You can use it for interpretation, cleaning, and analysis. And then briefly, if you want to play with it, you can get Kaggle or free data sets, massive ones. You put into ChatGPT, it cleans it so you don't have duplicate rows, stuff that is just boring and waste of time to do yourself. Have the software do it for you. You can decide whether you want to use it for the next stage, which is to interpret the data, which is what I did. And I was able to find trends immediately in this massive data set dealing with jobs in IT. I want to conclude with just saying, I think with AI and the human experience, we should be treating this as a thought partner. It can help us think through and brainstorm ideas, but we do have to be careful about the misalignment. It's called the AI misalignment with social values. That's what we have to keep our eye on to make sure it's being used in the correct way. I'll conclude with some of the chatbots are having constitutions built into their system to ensure that the chatbot's behavior is safe, ethical, and aligned with human values. Anthropic's Claude has a constitution. Other ones are guided by principles, and the other ones are just developing. These are the things we should be looking for to have self-checks built into the system, because we still have to be in there. I'll conclude with that. Thanks for the time. I just want to highlight a few things that I found extremely useful in this process. Let me just stop sharing, and thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. David. I would like us to just have a poll as we digest what we have just had, the insights that you've just shared right now. So Annabelle, please give us the poll. I'm not sure if the participants are able to respond to the poll. If you're able, please just respond, and we're going to share the poll's results later on as we go on in the presentation. So Dr. David, before we go to Silva, I just have one quick question. What practical steps can an organization, or rather people in impact measurement, take in order to start leveraging AI today in their mail processes?
Do you mean which organizations to go to for more information?
Like what practical steps can participants or can practitioners who are in impact evaluation and learning take so that they can start leveraging AI?
I think, yeah, you mean what? I think, well, if I understand correctly, I think the tools are available through, believe it or not, YouTube. Will also, of course, associations provide information and guidance, like the American Evaluation Association and various evaluation associations across the globe. I think I just presented to a couple of different organizations, New Zealand, Australia, and they're also providing excellent guidance on both the technicality of how to use these tools, because they do need to work. It's not just they're automatic. I probably went through very quickly and simply, but they do take a little bit of tinkering and time, but also the ethical domain of privacy issues, confidentiality, and also to make sure that these are aligned correctly with social values. For example, I'm working in India right now, and we're working on apps to detect tuberculosis because we're trying to eliminate tuberculosis. Well, there are a lot of issues involved simply in collecting the data, using a phone, for example. You can have people cough into it, and it tells you whether that are likely to have to get checked for tuberculosis. But if you think about it, you have to think about the fact that you're asking someone to cough into a phone. If someone else is holding it, ethically, that's a problem. They might be coughing into that person, the data collector's face. So then you have to think about getting a selfie stick or something else, or having them hold the phone. So simple things that we do in our life in data collection and evaluation, we have to think about the methodological and the ethical at the same time. Hope that's helpful in responding there, but I think for actually relying on information, you combine it with simple, easy to use information on YouTube in particular, and on various nets. We also have created an AI and evaluation LinkedIn page where we're all sharing what we're doing and our problems, and it's free. People can just join in, take a look for AI and evaluation. And John Beck and James Penn and I have helped build that. And for people, all of us, to share and not wait to the end of the year. It's available 365 days as we're thinking through tools we're using. So I hope that's helpful.
That's very helpful. I like the fact that you mentioned that AI should be a thought partner and not something that we use barely on its own. I love that part very much, because I realize that most of us in Mel, that is our concern. Are we going to rely totally on AI, or are we having human-centered AI? So the fact that you mentioned that it should be a thought partner, it is something that resonates, I'm sure, with every one of us here. So let's see the results of the poll, please. Okay, so the question is, what tools do you currently use to measure impact in your organization? So we have 23% that are saying they use manual data collection and analysis. We have 54 that are saying they use basic digital tools, Excel, online surveys. We have 13% that are saying they use AI-powered analytics. And then we have 10% who don't have any structured impact measurement process. Well, do you have any comments on the results of the polls, Dr. David?
That was interesting. It's sort of the norm you'd expect, where you have a curve. You have early adopters, which are very small, if you look at a bell-shaped curve. And then you have in the middle, you'll have folks that are experimenting with it, playing with it. And I do encourage people to play with it. It's the only way to get to know how to use it. And it's also the only way for us to effectively evaluate what we're doing in AI. I created my own GPT. The reason I created it for empowerment evaluation, that's sort of so-so quality when you did searches on the net, because it has, basically good stuff and garbage at the same time. I then learned how you can shape the quality of the data, and by putting what you think is appropriate in your own GPT and that you authorize, and then you get better results coming out of it. By doing that, I was able to understand how to evaluate, instead of a black box, how to evaluate GPTs now that I understand how they work by trying to create one myself. Anyway, my point is that the poll showed that kind of dimension where you have early adopters, you have people playing with it a little bit, and then you have a lot of folks who are not sure, and some who don't even want to play with it at all. That's a normal distribution that you're seeing in that poll.
Exactly. We have people who are very excited about it, and people who are conscious, and people are just like, I have trust issues with AI, so it's a no-go area. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. David, for that presentation. I'm going to invite Silva just to take us into the second session of this webinar. Silva, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Silva from sunny Rome, and the presentation of David works perfectly to lead into mine, and I'm surprised of how complementary hopefully they are. I'm starting with something that is basically, I think, very much in its line of thought, that we need to experiment and not to be afraid of experimenting. So when I need to explain what is artificial intelligence like, I tend to say it's like this gigantic, IKEA, where you build furniture, you have the set pieces and the set instruction. And still sometimes you make a mess with that. Now, AI is even more. It's like having all the possible components, all the possible things, and you can build whatever furniture you want. The problem is that you need to think what you want to build and work it out for yourself. Okay, so think about possibilities and think about not software, a software that you need to learn and you know exactly what it does and how to work on that, but think about possibilities, something that is apparently very simple, because at the end, they will show very different application, but in many cases, conversational AI boils down to a single prompt. Basically something where you can ask, hey, I'm copy pasting this data. Can you do an analysis? Hey, I need to do an evaluation and I want to have a methodology. Can you help me with that? It's as easy as that. The challenge is to basically have the creativity of having new prompts, because more and more prompts and case use studies are being developed, but there is also so much more than can be developed. And this is very much the topic of what I'm doing. And yes, by the way, we are evaluators. We are good at question, right? So who is best than us in discovering possibilities of artificial intelligence? What I want to say today is that despite all the possibility of experimentation, the evaluation community is not quickly picking up. And in some cases, I see a lot of fear, a lot of control, a big pressure to put the genius back in the bottle, and instead of exploring possibilities, to try to contain it and to have something that we know exactly what it does and we can manage. Of course, when I promote experimentation, I'm not saying let's go wild, because artificial intelligence can be pretty evil, And now we see a benign version of them, but there are tools to worry about. There are tools that we need to understand and understand their implication. Anyway, long story short, I think I'm starting, and this is the first time I discuss this with some people, that we really need to think it through. And I listed down a set of topics, and I will go only through some of them, where I would promote an adaptive, experimental approach with guardrails. And I see, though, that those are limited by rule-based AI use. So the list is there. I will go through some of them, and then, of course, we can discuss more, okay? Development of competencies. We are so used to have training where you know exactly. So we imagine that with AI, we go to a training, people give us tools, give us prompt, and the day after we can go back to work. What I loved is this book and quote from a book that say, you know what it takes to learn AI? 3 sleepless nights. The moment it click that you can do things with this prompt, and this is actually very much my story of life, but it's been more than 3 sleepless nights, I confer. And you discuss, oh my God, if I put this in the prompt, it can make it for me, then you get it and you start experimenting. And while this is so important, as I said before, we don't know what AI can do. And each of us is the best person that can ask, where is it that I need help? Where is it that if I try, if a specific approach, a specific thing that I'm doing could benefit from AI? And in many cases, the moment you do it, you are discovering new ground. And this is actually fantastic. So it's a space for experimenting, and you develop competencies as you go. Because at the beginning, it's trial and error. You don't know exactly what it can do. And then suddenly you discover, oh, wow, it works well with that. Or it doesn't work well with that. Or there could be challenge in doing that. Here is totally crap. Here is fantastic. Here is, you discover, you get an intuitive understanding of what AI can do for you. And we need to build this artificial intelligence muscle. And I found very much that, yes, we don't want to humanize artificial intelligence, but after sometimes you understand that they have a personality. They do something well, they do something badly, sometimes they have a sense of humor and so on. And the more you manage how to treat them as machine, but machine with a personality, and you understand this inverted comma personality, the better they will become their thinking sparrow and thinking companion that were mentioned about. It's really about this very strange form of understanding. Sensitivities are also something super important. So there is a huge fear. Oh my God, what happens when I put data there? Can I trust the data and so on? And in many cases, people are paralyzed by the idea that something will happen with the data the moment you put them in. And yes, we need to be worried. But there is something that is called the JAG frontier of artificial intelligence that basically say, well, we really don't know what we can do and what is risky, what we can try and what we cannot. So again, it's really about trying to understand what boundaries we can push to experiment and it's safe to do that, and what boundaries we shouldn't do. Always being aware of the overall ecosystem. And I found so funny sometimes that people are saying, oh my God, you are sharing data with artificial intelligence, when I take the time to anonymize the data, work on them, and those data have been sent through Gmail that actually create Gemini. And come on, surely, if Gemini is the same producer. So if you say to send the data through email, is equally safe or unsafe to use Gemini. I hear people worrying about data concern with maybe Alexa in the living room that is listening to every conversation. So yes, I really think we need to worry about what we share, the sensitivities of our data, because our data can be used very, very badly. And but not just about AI, it's the overall ecosystem where AI is located. So yes, sensitivity, but in a nice way. A toolbox. I start to see that many training is about getting the same prompt. A prompt is basically a set instruction on how to do a type of analysis and so on. And there is also a tendency to check, okay, this is a safe use. We can use AI to do, I don't know, data processing, but yes, if we discuss a methodology, we need to go with preset tools. Now, I think it's just rubbish, frankly, and especially now, we really need to have an environment where we understand that emergent possibility for AI can come any moment in time. So here I'm in Kenya, and I'm working with the client of a health service, and they saw that I was using AI. And they started to be curious, because I was very transparent on how I use it for transcription, summaries, and so on. They were curious, asked many questions. And then on the fly, we discussed that instead of me making interviews to them about the service, we would build together a questionnaire that they would deliver and analyze with AI. And we have done it in the same time I would have run the focus group. And what was the change? Before, you couldn't run analysis with a group of people because analysis interpretation is hard. While they collected the data, we put the data, of course, discussing sensitivities and so on there. We processed the analysis, we validated, we had fantastic discussion, they learn how to use a tool, and they have a system to do their own way of working. We could discover it because we took the opportunity on the go. And we need to learn to do that. We need, of course, tons of supervision. But is supervision something that is going to be static? I see it more and more. People worry about, oh my God, we are doing a questionnaire analysis, and is the output 100% correct? You know what? Yes, let's check. Let's continue to validate. But let's also think that supervision is not at the lower end, because a lot of supervision is over-obsessed with what AI is actually doing very well. AI is doing very well quantitative analysis, is doing fantastic things. And yes, we need to validate the output, but I would suggest that we need to learn how to increasingly validate methodologies and bias and the role in evaluation itself. Are we using evaluation in the AI in evaluation in the best possible way? Should we use AI in this evaluation? Is it creating bias? And more artificial intelligence is creating the methodologies. You just ask, hey, can you write a methodology for my next thing? Can you write the questionnaire tool and so on? It does it on the fly. So we need to be much better at creating if the guidelines for the focus group that is created by an AI is valid if there is an intrinsic bias, for example. So supervision is a much higher level that we are used to do. We need to document and share, and this, I think, again, where what David is doing is resonating. This is my personal notes of how I do things. I do experiment by the day. I've been using visual stuff, music, aggregation, you name it, really creativity is the limit. And what I do is that I have a practice of documenting my own experiment. I do it in my private blog because I think I can be a little bit more effective in doing that without worrying too much about who will read it or so. But most of them ended up being shared in presentation, in LinkedIn, and so on. And I'm very, very active in sharing the experiment. Why that? Because whatever we do that looks obvious to us can be an incredible discovery to people. Methodologically, we need to spend much more time. And again, here, I see the trends of saying how AI should be used, and then having documentation that are quite shallow. I'm all for promoting methodological documentation that are really deep. If we use AI for editing, editing can be spell check or editing can become co-creation. We need to understand when is it that the AI is actually, not just doing cosmetic thing, and be able to show the detail of that. I think we are in an incredibly interesting phase where methodological consideration are not just this boring part of the report that everyone skip, but it could be the place of the report where people go through because they can say, let's see if there is any new idea that I can share. So where two is a tug of war. And really, really, we need to balance. I didn't talk too much about AI in the workflow, but, to what extent we want to integrate it, when, how? Do we want to have fixed protocol or go on a case by case, where in some cases we say, here is okay to use it in methodology, here not. And we need to think more. I think it would be super important to leverage AI for communication and knowledge sharing. And again, there are tons of adaptive way of doing that. And critically for me, agreement and negotiation of use. I see the risk of having closer and closer protocols about how AI should be used, while I really think we need to be clear about the principle we follow and have continuous conversation with the people we work with the managers, but also the users. When I've done this thing in Kenya and I said, are you okay with me recording? We came with tons of ideas of how to record best and making them aware of confidentiality. So when we experiment, remember that there is this tension. There is a tension of controlling AI and creating rules, protocols, standard prompts, and so on, which are good, but actually can really limit the way we work. And something that is very deeply informed by ethics, that thinks ethics at every stage and is adaptive. And I would say that the rule base means that we forget the ethics. Because if at this meeting someone say, if you want to participate, you need to have consent that your conversation will be used, we are forcing implication and we don't open a dialogue about, is it okay here or not? And if we are adaptive, if we involve people in the conversation, we can actually create much better guardrails, but also much better evaluation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Silva. That was a very great presentation. I heard you talk about participatory, involving the people that we are working with into what we are doing, the methodology. So I know you were in South Sudan a few weeks ago. So I have one question for you. You know, how do we use AI to amplify the voices of the communities we're working with? Because there's been concerns that, you know, it may exclude the people that are already excluded. So how do we use it to, you know, amplify their voices?
I mean, for me, it's totally the opposite, because what I'm finding is that there is huge interest by people in using the tool. So many times, for example, we had, I started to have sometimes discussion, blogging and summarizing real time and validating straight away with the people and saying, is this how you want to be represented? So the moment I start to share summaries or quotes and so on, they have a much better sense that there is their voice. I'm much better and, sending back immediately feedback about, for example, in South Sudan, I was working with local organization. We had workshop about impact of the aid freeze, and I generated on the fly the same evening the findings that I share with the management and with them to say, are you okay with this? And the management could take real-time decision based on the loop, and people could validate and have something. So I've done, for example, artificial intelligence interviews, and in a way, I came into conversation where I could interview something like 40 people with in-depth qualitative interviews, something that would never have been possible normally, and present to the participant preliminary insights coming from their analysis. So I think it's a total game changer, and we can really use it creatively. It does music, it does drawing, is translation, and so on. So actually, for me, participatory use of AI is the future, because what we're going to see are three models. Evaluation as it is now is going. Bye-bye. Yalla, bye. Really, gone. Because more and more it can be done by, the more it's standardized, the more AI can do it. Then we will have something that are the big evaluation, model-driven, where you have sensors, big models and so on, where you will have new expert evaluators that can deal with this big model with huge data flows and so on, and validating the model. There are places like in camps management, for example, they are trying to replicate camps in digital world because you have data about population, impact, water sensor, online feedback, and so on. And you basically use the virtual copy of this camp or this city to derive analysis. And then there is participatory analysis, where suddenly we can share tools that put people in a position to better share data, insight, communicate, have much more rapid flow. The moment you have preliminary conclusion, you can have them on the fly, translate them, make it in a simplified form, make the same findings for the manager or for the people in the community, and enable them to use those tools. I mean, when I was with this client, they had a small survey that they never used, and I said, who do you need to send it to? And I showed them how to process the survey and write a letter to the manager of the service based on the service, and then just check that this was reflected in their work. So it's a total game changer if we are into participation, and we need to see it as such.
I totally agree. Participatory use of AI is the future. I totally agree with you. I mean, working in a place that is, where we have different cultures, especially in Africa, different cultures, different languages, participatory is the way to go.
You know what, to add? I find out the people who are on the margins seeing and embracing this possibility. They are clearly sharp, much more than many people in the evaluation community that are late in using it. And every time I use this tool, I talk about this tool, there is a lot of work and enthusiasm, and I think, though, our role is then to educate people, because those tools have a bias. Those tools can shift the voice of the people using it. They are, of course, created on an exploitative culture, Western and so on. So we can start a dialogue on how to use it better for everyone. And so we do the evaluation, but we also understand better what world we live in.
Exactly. Measure what matters. That's the goal. Thank you so much for your insights. So I'm going to ask that you do the second poll, then I'll ask you to give a comment. And also, I want to invite questions from the participants. If you have questions for Dr. David or for Silva, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A section so that we can have our speakers respond to those questions. So the poll is there on the screen. Please, let's respond to that. Thank you.
While we're waiting for more questions from the audience, I have a question for both of you, David and Silva. So we're on the participants list today. We have a lot of evaluators that are in the beginning of their professional career. What tips do you have for people that are starting their career in evaluation, in measurement, with and without regards to development in AI? Silva, you said stuff about putting more emphasis on the methodology and the framework. What kind of tips should people be mindful of?
Well, I can certainly add that I'm a past president of the American Evaluation Association, so my bias is sharing information with colleagues. In the different associations I'm connected with, I find that if you can join any of these associations internationally with everyone that you're closest to in terms of your country, your region, etc., you will learn so much more from your colleagues than just going it alone. I think that we need each other to be able to not just share our tools, but our insights, our experimentation. Like Silva was talking about, we're all learning this together, and that includes evaluation. Evaluation is evolving right now, in part, large part, because of AI, but not just AI. I think people are realizing more that we need to be more collaborative, participatory, and empowering in our approaches, and that we have to have some of the voices that have been kind of marginalized lifted up, because then we're going to get at more meaningful change in the communities, so that evaluation is not just a neutral experiment of it works here, it doesn't work here. It's going to be much more of a not tolerated just to be a scientific experiment and just be neutral. It's to help people get to where they want to go using evaluation feedback. So I think conceptually, if you can link up with not just a mentor, but a group, an association, a local affiliate, you'll find life a lot more enriching as a beginning evaluator. There's so much more to learn from each other. So that's my 2 cents on connecting with other folks to help you develop over time, because we're constantly learning, all of us. So I hope that's helpful.
I'm totally on the connecting, absolutely. And I would also add, don't be afraid, because I remember when I was teaching a group of students and after showing the theory, I show what AI could do. They look at me, I see they're becoming petrified as they saw the output of AI, and one of them raised the hand and said, "So what about me?" And I said, "That's exactly the question, because you are the one who is defining where evaluation and the future will go next." So absolutely take it as an opportunity. It's fantastic. We can do so much. We can really liberate evaluation. And also from measurement, let's go into impact as understanding, because then it's about complexity, it's about many things and so on. So really think it as an opportunity, because it's a unique time in human life, really. AI is a game changer, and you live in a time where you can either, be a thing of the past, good luck, or be the person who really can transform the field, thinking possibility.
I'd also add one more thing in that I think I agree 100%. I would just say, as you think about evaluation in terms of the continuum of learning versus accountability, think about where you want to be in that process. I think that the zone of learning is what all of us are entering more and more. The participants that we work with, other evaluators, et cetera. I'm not saying you don't want accountability. If you have a bank, you want to make sure it's on your terms, your hours, you want to connect online, but you also want an audit to make sure the money's there. So I'm not saying one or the other necessarily, but I think a lot more of our talents as evaluators is going to be not just in the accountability area. I want to ask one more thing because I do believe in building capacity with the folks we work with. And that is when I first started introducing, for example, empowerment evaluation, where people in the community should be doing more of their own evaluation. I had a lot of traditional evaluators say, well, no, you can't do that. You can't trust them to do that. And you're giving evaluation away. And I said, how many of you in this room are operating at 100%, oh, say 90% of the capacity in terms of what you've been trained for? No one raised their hands. 60%. Okay, a few hands went up. My point is, I said to them, if people were learning to do their own evaluation on a basic level, you could actualize and maximize your potential as an evaluator as well. So that not only does the community benefit, but we benefit the more that people learn how to do that. AI is, I think, a tool to help maximize that possibility where people are learning and building capacity, and we don't have to have complete control all the time as evaluators, which I know is a terrible thing to say for some folks, but I think it's obviously becoming true because the community is not tolerating this expert from on top. And AI can, if it's used appropriately, help democratize a lot of this process, including evaluation.
Because you're touching one of my passion very quickly, I think we need to reframe accountability because accountability now means compliance. And the moment we rephrase accountability as mutual responsibility, there is no divide into accountability and learning, because learning is about learning to also understand what works, what doesn't, and become more responsible together. So I'm totally with you that if it is understood as compliance, there is a disconnect. And probably AI is the opportunity to say, you know what, accountability to the people that matter is about responsibility and is in the same field as learning.
Excellent, excellent. I agree. Because I believe in self accountability and self-assessment. Beautiful. Yeah.
I totally agree as well. So I'm just going to ask Annabelle to give us the results for the poll. Then we can go into the question and answer session. So the question is, what do you think is the biggest advantage of using AI in impact measurement? So 84% said faster data processing. 11% said depth, better insight. We have 3% that say quality, reduced human error. There are others that are saying 0% actually didn't say, I don't see a big added value. Then others actually clicked on others. I would like to actually know what this other is. And then we have question 2 that says, would you trust AI driven recommendations in your impact reports? We have the responses there. There are some that are saying yes fully, only 8%. Annabelle, can you scroll down, please?
That's funny. It follows the same developmental scale that people who've been doing research on AI or any kind of diffusion of innovation follows, where we see the mechanical aspect of speed, things of that nature being, oh, I can go much faster. They can see that. And fewer understand the value of the quality. That will change over time. And then the smallest percent, as we can see over here, don't see the big added value. That's a matter of then, I think, like Silva said, us experimenting, playing with it. I've been pushing people to play with things as they're new in innovations at home, in their personal life, because then they can become more comfortable using them in the work area as well. AI is the same sort of thing where you can play with it. People are now doing their menus. They're doing their personal scheduling for vacations. They're doing letters where they want to send to somebody and they want to be firm, but they also don't want to be diplomatic. And then instead of spending an hour and a half figuring out how to do that correctly, they shoot it through the different versions of, say, Copilot, where you can be very professional, or you can be casual. You can pick which tone you want, and you save a tremendous amount of time. And then, of course, edit it as well. But as I'm looking at this, it's very interesting. We're seeing exactly the same pattern you see in the literature of early adopters, and they can see the mechanical aspect of speed first. Later, they'll see quality being even more powerful, but not yet. You'll see that change over time in the next 6 months to a year. And I don't mean 10 years. I mean like within a year, as people experiment and play with it in their own, with their families and their own lives, as well as work. That's fascinating to watch.
I may also add that I think that the understanding of AI is still very much of a software, as I said, that does the same thing and so on. While it's not that, it's a conversation. So you put some data, you see the output, and then say, I can look at it from a different angle. I can check that. I should, have a different data set and so on. So it's very hard to say what is AI and what is human more and more. When I write, sometimes I get my idea, I put them down, I ask AI to edit, maybe add something in the process, I recorrect, I go throughout. So it becomes something that is really a conversation, is a dialogue where you want to be in control, but where, you pick up different input from AI in different moments of the process. So it's very, very hard to say when is it that we use AI? Is it safe? When we build recommendation, how much is us and how much is AI in a process where we use it in different things? It's very hard to disentangle.
Yeah, I think we are going to realize that, how shall I say this? When we don't use it as professionals, we'll appear to be incompetent, to be honest with you. The same as if you don't check with Grammarly or something like that before you send something out, they'll think, oh, you're not actually at a certain par or standard that is going to be the expected. I think the future is a new standard of what's expected when we share information, deliver information, co-create information. If we don't go through some of the tools that we have available that are in AI, we'll seem illiterate to others. There'll be a new standard as I think we'll all be held the same way we're being held accountable for Grammarly correcting things of that nature. That's what's going to happen with AI as well. We're not there yet, but it's happening right as we speak. That will be what is expected. If they don't see a certain level of sophistication or polish based on being able to go through ChatGPT or whatever we end up using, Claude or whatever, we're going to be thought of, it won't be said, but we'll be thought of as a lesser qualified professional in that regard. It's sort of the same way, not if you don't use Canva, for example, or some other software to help make your stuff look a little bit more professional, people will think you're just using Word to do your document, and that's the only way of sharing it. You're not even posting it when you're using social media. They'll think that we're less talented and sophisticated and less skilled. So I think there's going to be a new standard that I've noticed that people are going to be expecting of all of us. So I just wanted to throw that out.
At the same time, I see a new trend of people putting typos by purpose to show that the conversation is more authentic and so on. So, really, we need to be skilled because we have so much more option.
Yeah.
I'm part
Yeah.
of the toolbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I would like to take this Q&A session and hand it over to Yao so that he can carry on with the Q&A session and you'll give his final remarks and also just give us the next steps. So Yao, please take over.
One question is, we have two questions that are a bit similar. I'll read one of them. How can we ensure AI reaches underserved communities with the ones without internet access? How can we involve them in co-designing solutions that address their needs? So either of you, David or Silva, if you want
Well,
to comment on that.
okay, as in any digital gap, we need to assume it's gonna get there, and because it does. On AI, actually, many of the language model already can run on a phone or a small computer. Of course, they are not the super powerful, but they can. There are open source model of AI that you can put on your phone or your computer and is great for processing data without sharing, and they can do basic, not so basic, what was cutting edge 2 years ago. So technology is getting there. And I think, of course, we need to be aware of the knowledge gap as usual, but actually to overcome it, because in any internet revolution technology, I saw people over worrying about, oh my God, people are not reached by the internet. And then I was going to a refugee camp in the middle of nowhere, and there were people queuing in front of an internet cafe because they got the potential. So I think this should be the attitude. But AI is getting there. It's getting localized and portable.
Yeah, no, I think I agree 100% that there are many ways of making it more accessible, and many of the versions are free. Now, there is an issue of money when you actually look at the larger picture, in that most of the free models are actually accessible to folks and they're extremely powerful. But what I've been learning is, for the bells and whistles and the degree and a higher degree of sophistication, you usually do have to end up paying the $20 per month for ChatGPT, sometimes even higher, et cetera. So there is a potential for a real gap or a moat between the haves and haves not. I've been involved a lot in trying to bridge the digital divide in communities of color through some of our Hewlett-Packard sponsored work. And we have Native Americans who didn't want a lot of the technology at all, building their own wireless system, as well as digital press. So it's all possible, but it does have to be facilitated and supported. And you have to keep your eye on the larger picture also, of when there's going to be a little bit more of a divide. Right now, there's a tremendous amount of democratization. We're in the wild, wild west, as it were, in many respects. And what we do have to keep our eye on is when that gets controlled by a small group, there is the potential for that, because the more sophisticated versions of what we're talking about do end up costing some amount of money. So we're in the early stages, a lot of freedom, a lot of sharing. I think there are many tools we can have, and I tend to share as many as I can with folks internationally, not just in the United States, that are either free and they're very powerful, and they may not be able to afford the more sophisticated ones, but these basic ones that get you in there are powerful and can help not only build capacity, but help people actually use evaluation feedback using AI to make their dreams a reality, by having that constant feedback system and using the core parts of evaluation.
Yeah.
I am a little concerned about the future, but I think there's tremendous potential that we can maximize right now.
And if I may just add, there is a lot of work on ethical AI and on development on localized models. So, for example, in Africa, there is a big push to create new AI that builds on local indigenous knowledge, so that really the brain of the AI is not someone that studied in Stanford or Oxford or whatever, but actually studied in Luanda or the community meeting point, because this is already happening. So we need to promote that. We need to be aware of that. We need to work with the bias. And but there are possibilities. It's a huge field.
Yeah. The other thing I would also encourage, and I think we're all encouraging it, is that people play with it. I created my own GPT for empowerment evaluation, partially because I wanted to have quality information going out about people learning how to assess their own programs, but also so I could understand how it works. And that, a quick example, I did a search on other videos on empowerment evaluation, and it gave more like a Google search rather than an AI search with ChatGPT of, yes, you can look at this, but then you have to go find it. All I did, once I learned how this works, is I created just a Word document that had a list of the URLs for all of the videos on empowerment evaluation that are out there. I did a TED Talk, there's an Ignite lecture, there's a bunch of stuff the NSF covered. I put the URL, I then uploaded it to the GPT, and then when you asked the question, it gave you the answer. You didn't have to go find it, that sort of thing. The point is, I was able to figure this out. This is the type of thing that's available, like I'm saying, on YouTube and other places, that all of us and the communities we work with can use to learn how to use these tools while there's still this open field of sharing information. And I definitely encourage us to share. I share all of what I'm learning with my grantees, the people in the communities, so they can learn to build their own capacity and sort of work myself out of a job, as it were, so that they can use this more and more. So I encourage all of us to learn, of course, ourselves about how to use these, but then a ripple effect to share them in the communities that we work in.
That's lovely, lovely insight, David. And Silva, we have a couple of more questions. I'm just going to say we are running a bit over time. Anyone who needs to drop, that's fine, because we're also going to share the recording with you after. But I do find it valuable to have the questions answered. So Silva and David, if that's all right with you to
Absolutely. Always happy to share.
Wonderful. So we have a question here, quite a long one. I'll shorten it a bit. It says another potential of AI is making larger volumes of public data more digestible to support evaluations and even causal models such as diff and diff, and with the goal of providing more nuances to analysis. The analysis. So first of all, would you agree? That's the first question. And then Offer asks, what would you take? What do you think it will take to these AI practices to be adopted more broadly by multilateral development banks or other large donor institutions?
Okay, on multilateral and so on, World Bank is cutting edge on artificial intelligence. There is the work of Esther and Raimondo that is actually super inspiring. So in a way that there, people are ready. I think that the gap is to have professionals that they are suggesting options, because it's the evaluator community that is backward. And what I'm finding out, I mean, I'm an evaluator. I like playing with things. So I started to play straight on. I say I'm hacking. I shared, and this raised a lot of attention. That's why I'm here. So definitely we are too few. There is interest, there is willingness. So absolutely, let's do it. And but this is why I presented what I presented. We are at the time where we can have the big organization to set regulation of what you can do or don't without not even knowing the potential of AI, or we can quickly make use cases and inspire for a correct principle-based use of evaluation. So I think this is where we are sitting. There is tons of data, AI. We live in big data. I think what is interesting now is to let other people to process all this data and really thinking, in this, now that we have a tool that can democratize evaluation, where do we go next? I think is a much more interesting question for the evaluation community than how we analyze all this big data.
Yep, I agree 100%. And I recommend that folks look at things like Kaggle, Kaggle, massive data sets that are in the public domain that you can use, and use ChatGPT just as an example. I usually use it to go through massive data sets and simple English language, and now more and more other languages, which is nice. Ask it what you want it to do to clean the data, to sort the data, and then to analyze it. And it often takes me a day or two sometimes to clean a big data set like that, or my staff, it takes them a day or two. I did it in literally 5 to 6 seconds, the same exact work. And then I asked it to do sorts on a topic I was not as familiar with. My son's going into engineering. I wanted to know what the salaries were for that sort of thing. So my own personal interest in it. It gave me actually the bar graphs on how much each group makes, whether it's in AI or with electrical engineering or et cetera. Not an area that I'm as familiar with. I did a massive data set through Kaggle, sorted it, and all of it took me almost a full minute to do the whole thing, which normally takes me about 4 or 5 days to go through that large a data set. So I think the data is out there. I think we could probably help others find ones that we think are really useful. Are they perfect? No, but we have access to them. Anyone has access to these. And the tools that I'm talking about are not the expensive ChatGPT. I'm talking about either free or I'm talking about the $20 one a month, to be able to do this massive sort that normally would have taken quite a few $1,000s to do in the old fashion. And the more that we share that with folks that we work with, they then build the capacity to do it. And then once again, we can operate at a higher level in terms of what we can do if they know how to do some of these basic kinds of assessments and using AI. So I think it helps all of us.
Yeah, and demanding more open data, of course, rather than proprietary data.
Exactly right. Yep.
Absolutely. I'm curious to know if that evaluation helped your son to decide what to study, but we'll leave it for a different conversation. We have another question. For someone who is completely new to AI, could you recommend where is the best place to start? Which tool is the best beginning point?
Any
But-
tool.
Any tool. I should say, I look at all of them, or most of the major ones, I should say, and I think Sylvia pointed out, they actually have different personalities and different abilities. If you were just to look at, and they change drastically. I gave a presentation just a little while ago, and I said 70% of what I have to say is going to be still valid and correct for another 7 months. And the rest of it, I don't know. And I'm not joking. I talked about, Claude, and I talked about ChatGPT, and I talked about Bard, right? And then a week later, I said, oh, Bard doesn't exist now. It's Gemini. So, I mean, so that's the nature of what we're doing here, is that it's changing. I would say people don't realize that you can pay $20 if you want a month for ChatGPT, but you could also use Microsoft Copilot, which has ChatGPT for free and Dolly for image creation for free. So there's a lot of confusion, and people I think are wedded right now to, oh, that's the one that works. Everyone's going to ChatGPT, and they don't take the time to play with a couple of them to see that they're actually different. Like Claude might be better for longer prose and conversation and reports. And ChatGPT is probably better for the quick response, etc. There are differences. I would say that, so like Sylvia said, just pick one that you've heard a colleague or a friend play with it. Ask it key questions that you think are important. And you'll learn that right now, I believe we're at the embryonic or beginning stage. We're having to be overly careful and kill ourselves getting better and better, more precise prompts. I think in the future, it will know us better because it'll be thought partners, and we'll know the software we're using, the AI tool we're using better. So we learn from each other. We won't have to constantly be so precise to get it. You'll know when you do images, it takes forever to get what you really want, because you'll do one, that's not quite right, do another one. Could you modify that? Could you make it female as well as male? Could you different, you have to put all these things to keep on. In the future, it will know what you're looking for with not as many key prompts. But I think because we're at the very earliest stage, it's almost like a Google search in the old days. We have to be more and more precise and get better at it. That's what's going to happen with AI, except it's going to be learning from us, because the complaint used to be, oh, hallucinations, and they're giving us bad citations. Use Copilot right now. It gives you the citations before you even ask for them and the links to them so you can check quickly. So it's learning, as long as we give it feedback about what worked and didn't work while we're playing with it, to improve and be more responsive to what we're looking for. But I think we're at the very early stage in the slice of life of developmental change with AI. And we have to unfortunately be overly precise and better at our prompts. Soon that will not be an issue. It is right now, though. That's where we are at the moment.
My suggestion is really start with an established one, like ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. So you know that you are not having a terribly simple model that just frustrates you. Play with that, but then compare all the time. And I put the name there. I use a lot LM Arena. That is basically something that compare artificial intelligence. So sometimes you put the prompt, and it does it to two unknown artificial intelligence, and then you rank. They use it to rank the capacity of different artificial. And for me, it was fantastic to see how the same question, the same prompt, and so on could run in parallel with sometimes AI I never heard about, some unknown Chinese or whatever AI. And sometimes they give better results than a ChatGPT or the like. So play with one, get used with it. Don't get stuck because they are changing by the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll take two last questions. One is the first one is very interesting. Using AI excessively is not good for the environment, either with servers usage or water. Is it a dilemma you're facing when you're working on MEL or M&E for social and environmental programs?
I face it all the time, not just when I work for social programs, because I am concerned about the environment as I'm concerned on many other things. And yes, it is absolutely a concern that is not just about the usage, but is the way we are developing AI. And now there is a huge race to make the most gigantic AI and so on, using a lot of resources. Fortunately, there are changes there because, the race, DeepSeek, ChatGPT is proving that it's possible to build stronger model with less energy extraction. And this is something that we should really all push for. Then, yes, I'm guilty. And actually, one of my practice is to start checking my use of AI and apply the same challenge to the same thing that I apply for flying. If I use it, I then pay to decarbonize. I think it's a little bit, I know we shouldn't, but you know what? I think at this point, using AI in an efficient way is, you know, is good. It is pushing us somewhere, and if we don't use it now, probably it's the people who don't care about environment who will use it. So I don't want to give them disadvantage.
Yeah, yeah. Once again, I agree, and I think what you're seeing here. Someone asked me about this. I just gave a talk in Phoenix, and they said, "What should we say about the environmental impact of that sort of thing?" And I think the point is, when you look at Deep Six and you look at what this group did in Berkeley for not 6 months, even less than that, and for a lot less. Deep Six was like 6 million or whatever. The trajectory of where things are going, it's these kinds of new developments are scaring the pants, as it were, off of the larger ones because it can be done in such a short period of time. Now, have they stolen and stuff and cloned stuff? Absolutely, that's the nature of technology. What a shock! What a shock, right? But the point is, we're learning to do this without having to be as massive and as expensive. Look what happened to the stock at for NVIDIA and that sort of thing. They lost what was 500 million in a day because Deep Six came out. They are afraid of what's going on for the future. Now, these other ones like Deep Six, they are connected like with China, and you have to worry about, where the information is going, et cetera. And
I'm worried with information going to the US now.
Exactly. I'm gonna say, like, we shouldn't worry where it's going. We should be worried wherever it's going. Exactly. Right now, we have all sorts of issues in the U.S., as you know, that make this all like a big question mark of, where is the trust in our government, in our constitutions, et cetera. But the point of it is that the trajectory of this is going into the direction of doing it faster, less expensive. Is it still a problem with the impact right now on the environment? Absolutely, yes. But if it continues in the trajectory, which it will, because no one's going to spend billions of dollars if they can spend literally millions of dollars, and that's the direction it's going in right now. The latest one was in Berkeley, where they came up with another in Seattle, and they did it in months, based on, of course, building on what already exists. So the direction is going to be towards less expensive, because who's wants to spend that kind of money? The problem is there will be this divide, I think, that I am still concerned about, of the massive supercomputers, basically quantum computers, that sort of thing, that a limited number of people will have control over, that can process this material much faster and will still be very expensive, but they'll have the money for it. So there are some larger issues ahead that I'm very keenly aware of. There's also one that we haven't talked about at all, which is there's some discussion about the limitation of real data. a number of people have mentioned that there's a certain point that we may reach in the not too distant future where we only can have synthetic data. We won't have actual real raw data to work with, which then questions the quality of what we're going to be doing to evolve from that and what we'll learn from that. That's down the road. That's at least 7 or 8 months from now, way down the future.
It's the far future. And to end, I'm sure lots of people that listen to you today want to stay in touch or want to follow what you are doing. What's the best way to follow you, to stay up to date with your latest activities?
For me, it's LinkedIn. See what we're posting on LinkedIn. And
look for my name, Silva Ferretti. I type it here. You can drop an email, sorry, Ferretti, double T. Drop an email. Always happy to be in touch. We are all on this together. I really strongly believe that we need to talk about those ideas.
Yeah. And do join places that are out there like AI and evaluation on LinkedIn, not just us. Mine is available also, fettermanassociates@gmail.com. I'm happy. I take a few days to get back to people because I travel a lot, but I'm always happy to get in discussion with all of these things and share what we're learning. But go to the sites that you'll see become very reliable as new ideas are shared, not just with us, but all of us that are experimenting. So if you find sites that you like and key people, I would look for YouTube channels of folks that you like. I would look for LinkedIn, AI and evaluation related topic areas that you can just join in. There's so many places to plug in, but you'll see which ones speak to you, for everyone in the audience, that fits in with what you're interested in and speaks in a clear way rather than a technical, sophisticated way that obfuscates rather than clarifies the message of what AI can do.
Thank you so much. There were a few other questions about specific links, so we will share all of that in the follow-up email that will be sent to everyone that registered. David and Silva, I want to really thank you. You are incredible. You shared so much valuable and practical information today. Thank you so much for doing this. To all the audience, this is the first episode out of a series of 4 webinars that will happen every week in the next 3 weeks. Noemi, I'm back to you. Do you want to present the next episode that will happen next week?
Oh, you can go ahead.
I actually don't remember the exact episode that's happening next week.
Okay, it's fine. So next week we are doing the actual case studies of AI application in mail. So look out for that session. This webinar was hosted by Rural Census. So we have been into AI and evaluation for quite some time. So we're going to show some of the practical case studies. So do join us and also just learn. And if you also would like to share what you're using AI for in your impact evaluations, do get in touch with me. We might as well give you a chance to come and showcase what you're doing. So that is for the next session.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Well done for organizing this.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So
This is a-
everyone who joined us today, thank you so much. Stay in touch and join us next week. Until then, have a lovely, peaceful, and happy week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Real pleasure. Take care. Good meeting you. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So much.